At 4:17 on the morning of my wedding, I woke from a dream so vivid I could feel my grandmother's hand gripping mine. She had been gone for 3 years, yet her voice was unmistakable. "Cancel the wedding," she whispered. "Go to his mother's house before sunrise. Don't call anyone. Just look." I told myself it was grief or nerves, not a warning. Still, I pulled on jeans, grabbed my keys, and drove through the rain to the house where my future mother-in-law lived alone. Her front door was unlocked. Inside, I heard my fiancé's voice, and another woman crying. Then his mother said one sentence that made my blood run cold. "She can never find out what happened to the first bride." I froze in the hallway, wearing my engagement ring. By noon, the church would be full. But first, I had to learn who I was about to marry. My name is Claire Bennett, and I was 28 years old when I almost married a man whose smile fooled everyone, including me. Looking back now, I don't believe my story began on my wedding day. It began years earlier with my grandmother, Evelyn, the woman who raised me after my father passed away. She always told me, "Claire, never ignore the feeling that something is wrong just because everyone else says everything looks perfect." At the time, I thought it was simply old-fashioned advice. Ryan Mercer seemed like the kind of man every woman hoped to meet. He was thoughtful, patient, successful, and loved by my friends. We had been together for 2 years, and our wedding was finally only hours away. The venue was decorated, our families had arrived, and every detail had fallen perfectly into place. My only concern before bed was whether the forecasted rain might ruin the outdoor photos. Then I dreamed of my grandmother. She stood in a dim hallway I'd never seen before, holding both my hands so tightly I could almost feel the pressure. Her expression wasn't fearful. It was urgent. "Cancel the wedding," she whispered. "Wake up early. Go to his mother's house. Don't call anyone. Just look." I woke at 4:17 a.m., my heart racing. Ryan wasn't where he said he'd be. Then I noticed muddy footprints leading toward the back door. I followed the muddy prints through the kitchen and found the back door unlocked. The rain had softened, but my pulse grew louder as I hurried toward my car. Ryan's phone went straight to voicemail. I left no message. His mother, Diane, lived 15 minutes away in a neighborhood. When I turned onto her street, I convinced myself to go home. Then I saw Ryan's sedan tucked behind her garage, hidden from the road. The front door stood open. I stepped inside and heard a woman crying in the dining room. "You promised you would tell her," she said. "You cannot do this again." Ryan answered in the calm voice he used whenever he wanted someone to doubt themselves. "Natalie, lower your voice. Claire doesn't need to know." Then Diane spoke. "She can never find out what happened to the first bride." My hand closed around my phone. I started recording. Natalie said her sister, Melissa, had been engaged to Ryan 5 years earlier. Days before their wedding, she discovered loans opened in her name and documents carrying signatures she had never written. When Melissa confronted them, Ryan and Diane told everyone she was unstable. Ryan sounded irritated, not ashamed. "Once Claire signs after the ceremony," he said, "the debt problem disappears." I backed toward the door, barely breathing. Outside, Natalie caught up and pushed an envelope through my window. I stared at the envelope while Natalie stood beside my window. "My sister is alive," she said. "But Ryan destroyed her life. Read everything before you marry him." Then she hurried back toward Diane's house. I drove 2 blocks, parked beneath a streetlight, and opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were loan applications, property records, and emails between Ryan and his mother. Melissa's name appeared beside signatures she denied writing. But the final documents carried my name. Ryan's construction company owed nearly $600,000. My house, the one my grandmother had left me, was listed as future collateral. So was the inheritance account I had never given Ryan permission to access. One email made my stomach turn. "Claire will sign after the ceremony. She trusts me more than she trusts herself." Suddenly, every conversation about combining our finances felt different. His promises about building a future had been instructions disguised as affection. I photographed every page and sent them to my friend, Maya Collins, an attorney. She called immediately. "Do not sign anything," she warned. "Keep the recording and originals. Do not tell Ryan what you know until we secure the evidence." I wanted to cancel everything, but Maya said Ryan might destroy records or invent another explanation. So I let him believe the wedding was still happening. Then my phone rang. It was Ryan. "Claire," he said calmly, "why is your side of the bed empty?" I forced myself to answer before the second ring. "I couldn't sleep," I said. "I went for a drive." Ryan chuckled softly. "You always overthink everything before big days. Come back. Everyone's asking where you are." His voice sounded exactly as it always had. Warm, patient, reassuring. If I hadn't heard the conversation inside Diane's house myself, I would have believed every word. "I'll be there soon," I replied, then ended the call before my voice betrayed me. Back at the bridal suite, laughter echoed through the room as my bridesmaids finished decorating. Someone handed me coffee. Another admired my dress. Everyone kept saying how lucky I was. I smiled because I had to. While my makeup artist worked, Maya texted that she had secured copies of every document I had sent. She reminded me not to confront Ryan alone and to keep everything exactly as planned until the evidence was protected. A few minutes later, Diane arrived carrying a velvet jewelry box. "I thought you'd want something borrowed," she said sweetly. Inside was my grandmother's silver necklace. Ryan had told me weeks earlier that it had been misplaced during our move. The necklace had been stored in the same locked drawer as my property records. A cold realization settled over me. Ryan hadn't been searching for jewelry. He had been searching through my legal papers. Just before the ceremony began, I lifted my bouquet and discovered a folded document hidden beneath the flowers, waiting for my signature. By the time the music began, my hands had stopped shaking. Strangely, I wasn't walking toward the altar to become Ryan's wife anymore. I was walking toward the truth. Every guest smiled as I entered the church. My friends admired my dress. Ryan looked relieved the moment he saw me. Whatever fear he had felt that morning disappeared from his face. He thought I had chosen him. The ceremony started normally. The officiant welcomed everyone, spoke about trust and commitment, and invited us to share our vows. Before I could begin, Ryan smiled and reached beneath a small table beside the altar. "I have one surprise first," he announced. He held up the folded document I had discovered beneath my bouquet. "It's just a symbolic agreement," he said with a laugh. "A promise that everything we own will always belong to both of us." Several guests applauded. Ryan uncapped a pen and handed it to me. "Sign it now," he whispered. "Let's start our future together." Instead of taking the pen, I looked at the officiant. "May I say something first?" He nodded. I turned to face our families. "Trust should never require hidden paperwork," I said quietly. "And love should never depend on someone signing a document they haven't read." The room fell silent. I reached into my bouquet and removed Natalie's envelope. "Ryan," I asked, holding up the papers, "would you like to explain why my home was listed as collateral for debts I never agreed to guarantee?" His confident smile disappeared instantly. Ryan stared at the documents as though they belonged to someone else. "This is ridiculous," he said, forcing a laugh. "Claire, you're letting strangers manipulate you." Before I could answer, the large screen behind the altar flickered to life. Natalie stepped forward holding a tablet. "There's someone who deserves to be heard," she said. A woman's face appeared on the screen. "I'm Melissa." The church became completely silent. Melissa looked directly at me. "Ryan and I were engaged 5 years ago," she began. "I was never his wife. When I discovered loan applications and financial documents using my name without my permission, I confronted him. Instead of admitting what happened, he and Diane convinced friends and business contacts that I was emotionally unstable. I left because I no longer felt safe staying in that situation." She calmly displayed dated emails, bank correspondence, and copies of records that matched the documents inside Natalie's envelope. Ryan interrupted repeatedly. She's lying. She forged those. She wants revenge. Nobody answered him. Maya stepped beside me. My office has already preserved copies of these materials, she said. Independent professionals will review them. Today isn't about deciding legal responsibility. It's about ensuring the evidence remains protected. I removed my engagement ring and placed it beside the unsigned agreement. I trusted you, I said quietly. But trust isn't something you earn through deception. Diane stepped forward with tears in her eyes. He only wanted to save the family business. I shook my head. Needing help never justifies misleading the people who love you. Ryan lowered his eyes for the first time. The wedding was over before the vows had even begun. People often ask what happened after I walked away from the altar. They expect a dramatic ending, but the truth unfolded quietly over the following months. The wedding never resumed. Guests went home shocked, while Maya ensured every document, recording, and email was preserved for the proper legal process. Independent experts later confirmed that several financial records contained unauthorized information and signatures that required further review. Ryan's business eventually entered bankruptcy, and the disputes surrounding those transactions were handled through the courts. Melissa finally had the chance to tell her story without being dismissed. Natalie thanked me for believing her when no one else would. As for Diane, she admitted that protecting her son had blinded her to the damage his choices caused other people. I changed every password, updated my financial records, and eventually sold the house my grandmother had left me. I wanted a fresh beginning instead of living inside painful memories. Months later, while sorting through unopened wedding gifts, I found the expensive picture frame Ryan had planned to give me. Inside was another copy of the same property agreement he had called a symbol of love. I smiled sadly and recycled the frame after confirming the evidence had already been safely documented. To this day, I cannot prove my grandmother truly visited me that night. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was intuition. Either way, listening to that quiet warning saved my future.